Are we bad people for making fun of Katy Perry? Well, hello, you are tuned in to Starstruck with Big Pink Energy, who is me. Maybe you're here for a chat about pop culture, music news or gossip, or maybe you're listening because you're secretly in love with me. That would be very, very exciting, wouldn't it? Oh my goodness. Wow. Do I have something I need to discuss with you guys today? I need to speak on something. If you've seen my content before, you guys already know I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga. This is very evident, it's very clear. But I'm not so much of a fan of Miss Katy Perry. And some of you have actually even left me comments asking me why I'm so mean to her. All I have to say to that is you've seen nothing yet, my friends, because I can go lower. No, in all seriousness, I am one of those people who just finds it baffling that they were ever even compared or perceived as peers. I think just because they debuted around the same time, it's always been glaringly obvious that Katy was more of like a flash in the pan. While Gaga, since day one, has been working on cementing a legacy that would blossom into this amazing multi-decade career and a lasting impact in pop culture, Katy just is not that material. Even the words "raw versus applause" just just makes me laugh, because the idea that one song charting higher than another could be a genuine indicator of who's a better pop star between the two, when one of those pop stars in the running is the Lady Gaga, it's just laughable. It's just laughable. You cannot compare. Like, they're so different. And Gaga is leagues above Katy, and it's not even funny. I'm sure some of you in the comments and things are going to disagree with me here, but you just don't compare. It's like comparing, it's not even a Walmart and Chanel thing. It's like, I don't know what's less shady. From their debuts, it's been clear that Katy was like a record label executive's dream, with just like the way she had buckets of sex appeal with just the right amount of quirkiness in her personality for the male population to really digest her. They'd find her personable, likeable, not at all off-putting. She could sing. She had these huge breasts. And she'd wear funny costumes to show them off in, because even though she's beautiful, she wasn't like your regular girl. She had a sense of humour, and you, as a heterosexual man in 2010, are allowed to find her both hot and funny. That's the way she was marketed. Katy Perry is a safe space for straight men and a safe space for straight women who are interested in appealing to those straight men. Just to put it really simply, sex sells, obviously, and Katy Perry made a lot of money. Contrastingly, we had Lady Gaga arrive on the scene at the same time, and she was all about studying the science behind what made figures like Katy Perry famous and completely subverting that. Lady Gaga used sex not to sell her records, but to make people think twice about what media they were consuming. I'd even say Lady Gaga was much more sexual than Katy anyway. She wore outfits that showed more skin than Katy. Her choreography would have much more like sexuality and be much more suggestive in her movements. She'd talk about sex constantly in her interviews, but it didn't feel like someone was in her ear telling her to say those things or telling her how to act. In fact, I think the general public was just more baffled about what she was going to say or do next. Like, that's what made Gaga famous, was that confusion around everything, whereas Katy was just known as being sexy. Lady Gaga actually has a really good unreleased song called Sexy Ugly, which, if you aren't familiar with, absolutely go and look that up. It's about how being conventionally hot isn't the most interesting thing on the planet, but playing with like ugliness through high fashion or self-expression, all of those things put together with sexiness is just infinitely more exciting than just being sexy or just being pretty. So if you're not familiar with that song, go and look it up. It's really good. But let's get back to Katy. Katy's sexuality from the start felt very performative and did not feel like she was in control of it. While you had Gaga showing up to award shows half naked in fake blood to make a statement, Katy was publicly and loudly dipping her toe into bisexuality, which again was a huge marketing tactic in 2010's pop culture, also adopted by the likes of Jessie J and Nicki Minaj. It was literally a recipe for every straight man's hottest fantasy. She's a beautiful woman with great boobs, a funny personality, she can sing, she can dance, and she kisses girls. And not just that, she kisses girls and she likes kissing them. Like that, for a straight man, oh, honey, there's money to be made. So my favourite Lady Gaga interview soundbite will forever be when she clocked that Katy hasn't ever kissed a girl. I don't know if you guys remember that interview, but like she saw right through all of that from day one. And I just have to respect it because she's right. Everything about Katy Perry at that time, and if we were keeping it real, still to this day, just felt manufactured. When you see Lady Gaga on stage in a meat dress, do you think that's something her manager has asked her to do? Or do you think that's an idea that's been born from her and her creative team? Whereas when Katy Perry does a photo shoot with her boobs wrapped in foil and Hershey's Kisses, like the ribbons, who do you think benefits from that? Who do you think is behind the scenes saying, that's the image that we go with? Who do you think is signing off the wardrobe? Who do you think is signing off the creative direction? Do you think it's Katy Perry? Do you think it's maybe her management? Do you think it's maybe her record label? Because I just think they're two very different artists, and it's very clear to me who is pulling the strings in which career. Gaga, for me, feels she would have made it if her team was the same, if her team was different. She would still be where she is today. I really do feel that way. Katy Perry, it feels like she followed orders, and that's why she has her career, to be completely honest. I only keep comparing the two of them because I think the fact they debuted at the same time is a really interesting case study of what the world was like from around 2008 to 2011. The points I'm making about Katy Perry's sexualized image are also very much relevant to the discussion today and all of this going to space drama. The reason why you're tuning in today, though, is not to listen to me ramble about Lady Gaga again, but it's because you want the answer to this question. Are we bad people for making fun of Katy Perry? Well, we're going to get into it, but the short answer is no. But proceed with caution here, because in Katy Perry's defense, not something I ever thought I would be doing is defending her, but some of what I'm seeing is absolutely a pile-on of misogyny. And there's definitely something at least a little uncomfortable in the way we're consistently frothing at the mouth to drag women down. Like, we've really learned nothing from the Free Britney era, but while that lasted, at least that was nice. That's all I have to say about that. Let's start at the start. The first time I realised Katy Perry was a little bit weird was when I was listening to her album, One of the Boys, and I found this little song called You're So Gay. Now, the whole song is problematic, let's be real, but I don't think anything could be as tone deaf as that opening lyric. For those of you unfamiliar, the song is about Katy dragging this guy because she liked him, but he acts a little bit gay. He acts a little bit LGBT in his interests and his mannerisms. So she comes out swinging on this song. Before I get deeper into this, just a trigger warning right here for sensitive content, because the discussion is going to get a little bit serious. If mentions of suicide are triggering for you, maybe let's hit pause on this one and listen to one of my other podcasts instead, or just skip ahead quite a lot. Anyway, the opening lyric of Katy Perry's song You're So Gay is, I hope you hang yourself with your H&M scarf. Now, context, at this time, I vividly remember multiple headlines, news stories, and campaigns about teen gay suicide because of bullying. Lady Gaga fans will remember the story of Jamie Rodemayer, who took his own life in 2011 at the age of 14 because he was relentlessly bullied for his sexuality. That one always stays with me because we were born in the same year. And I remember when it happened, just thinking there is so much, even within the Gaga fandom, he was obviously going to miss out on, but just, I remember, like, when you're 14, you have your whole life ahead of you. Like, there is so much still left to experience and to happen. And I feel like those early teen years for me were so transformative in terms of the person I became. And to have that cut short is just really difficult for me to wrap my head around. So the idea that he just felt like he shouldn't be on this earth anymore and acted upon it is difficult. But this was happening all around America and in other places in the world as well. I think we had a couple of young suicides in the UK as well around this time. Teen gay suicide in the early 2010s was a hot topic. You've probably all heard of the It Gets Better project, which was an online movement founded in 2010 where tons of gay adults shared their stories with the aim of making queer youth feel supported and optimistic about their futures. Tons of celebrities got involved and supported the movement, and President Barack Obama even contributed with a video. So in his video, he said this. He said, "We've got to dispel this myth that bullying is just a normal rite of passage, that it's just some inevitable part of growing up. It's not. We have an obligation to ensure that our schools are safe for all of our kids. And for every young person out there, you need to know that if you're in trouble, there are caring adults who can help." So this was a big thing at the time. And yes, I'm also sad that in our not so distant past, the President of the United States used to be a person who would speak up publicly against homophobia, but alas, we're here now. I just hope all of this context helps you understand why Katy Perry's song You're So Gay is so uncomfortable. This was the cultural landscape at the time. Kids as young as 9 years old were taking their life following bullying. It's difficult to even comprehend how this could happen at such a scale across America and the world. But to make matters worse, on You're So Gay, Katy is normalising casual homophobia and poking fun at very normal things. She calls out things like wearing SPF, being a vegetarian, using social media. According to Katy Perry on this song, all of those things make you a little bit gay. So work. Okay then. It's safe to say queerness for Katy Perry on this song is a negative thing. But then on her debut lead single, I Kissed a Girl, her queerness is empowering. All of a sudden her queerness is desirable, and it's used to position her as a sex symbol. It's baffling to me that you can both ridicule and perform queerness on the same album. They're conflicting messages. It makes I Kissed a Girl just feel so transparent to me that these two songs were released at the same time. Now, as a bisexual woman who doesn't talk very much about her own sexuality in the fear of upsetting anybody, because I'm actually engaged to a very, very lovely man, I've always been in this relationship basically my whole romantic life. The chances of me ever being in a queer relationship are very slim. I'm in it now with this man for the rest of my life. Very happy about that. But that's why I don't really speak about my sexuality very much. But coming from me, this whole I Kissed a Girl and You're So Gay stuff really kind of makes me angry, if I'm being totally honest. I don't like the queerbaiting policing trend that's been popular in the last few years, because I think the concept of queerbaiting makes it difficult for people who are questioning their sexuality to discover who they really are. I see the way some of you talk about queerbaiting, and it really closely describes my journey of defining whether I like girls or not. Like, I went through that journey that everyone does when they're kind of questioning. I know some queer people are like, I've always known. Some people need a little bit of time, and some people need a little bit of experimentation or whatever. It wasn't straightforward for me. It took me a good couple of years to get to kind of that identity that I've got now. So I always think, if during those years when I was working things out, if I were a public figure back then, I absolutely would be hated on by some of you, by the way people are villainized for queerbaiting, for doing queer adjacent things when they're not completely out of the closet. I absolutely would be hated on. I think queerbaiting forces people to come out of the closet before they're ready to, and it's literally just to satisfy a small group of hyper woke people, and it's dumb. So please stop accusing people of doing that if you're listening. and you're somebody who does that. However, all that being said, for me, there is zero doubt in my mind that I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry is the epitome of queerbaiting. I hope you guys understand. I hope I'm being very clear here. These are very harsh words coming from me because I do not support accusing people of queerbaiting, period. I just don't. I thought it was dumb when you guys did it to Billie Eilish. It was dumb when you did it to Harry Styles, and it's going to be dumb whoever comes next that's a victim of it. I just think people should stop accusing people of queerbaiting. I think it's stupid. However, Katy Perry, to me, all of this is very transparent. You're So Gay is not a song that's made by a girl who has gay friends. It's not a song made by somebody who's thinking they might want to kiss more girls. It's a song made by somebody who solely wants to be seen as a sex symbol by straight men, by somebody who wants approval of the straight man. The combo of You're So Gay and I Kissed a Girl is Katy literally doing anything and everything she can to let straight men know they have a safe space in her world. The world where we drink beer, love boobs, hate gays, and want to get off on watching girls touch each other and looking into the camera. Like, it's so transparent. It's so transparent. Anyway, all of that to say, that was the first time I clocked that Katy Perry was a little bit weird. Believe it or not, I actually really, really liked Teenage Dream. It's a very good pop album. That's just factual. It made sense why it was so popular. There's a couple of things we can talk about, though, like the song Peacock, for example, while we're on this topic, because the song Peacock is a little bit uncomfortable as well. I remember years ago, Pitchfork actually wrote an article about her tour from the California Girls era. And this was when Katy was in all of her like Candyland aesthetic, wearing all the dresses with like the sweets on and the blue wigs and all of that. And they said she was like pushing 30 years old, dressed on stage in girly costumes and singing to her very, very young audience about wanting to see a big penis, which is you. Yeah. It's kind of like, if you're going to make songs about sex, maybe it is a little bit weird that you're on stage looking like a children's entertainer. Like, there's just something a little bit off about that. And also Firework, like that just felt like a really weak response to all of the pro-gay music that was coming out around that time. It just also felt super transparent. Like, we had Born This Way, we had that song Perfect by Pink, and we had Firework. Like, they are kind of the early 2010s songs of self-love and acceptance. And I think Firework, conceptually, lyrically, is just by far the weakest. I mean, I don't even have to talk about Do You Ever Feel Like a Plastic Bag? Like, we all know how bad that was. Just tragic, actually. But aside from that, I didn't really have any other problems with Katy again until she did her whole purposeful pop era. And I know between then she had a few cultural appropriation scandals between Teenage Dream and Witness, but I don't want to diminish that because some of them definitely were very, very embarrassing and inappropriate. But I think at the same time, almost everyone kind of had a cultural appropriation scandal of some sort in the 2010s. Even Lady Gaga, I can call her out. She's my favourite. She definitely did a bit of that too. I think now, generally as a society, we're a little bit better at recognising what is and isn't ours to take inspo from and where that line is between appropriation and appreciation. Oh, if you're watching on video, I've just turned my light on and it looks like I'm telling a ghost story now. Sorry for the change in lighting if that's really jarring. Listeners, you keep listening, it's all good. Don't you worry, pretend this never happened. Where was I? So yeah, I'd lost interest in Katy Perry actually, pretty much as soon as Teenage Dream ended, because to be frank, she had just zero artistic progression in her work. I was bored and I had Lady Gaga to listen to instead, so that's what I did. But I wasn't an active hater of hers. I didn't actively hate, I just truly didn't care. And that is until probably the Witness era began. Then I will admit I became a hater in that era. I definitely did. The album lead single was that song Chained to the Rhythm, I think, which was an attempt to comment on society and how we're all fake and social media means nothing. Okay, we get it, Katy, your music has a message now and you're all deep and you've got a lot of thoughts and you've got a lot of things you want to say, and yeah, okay, it was very that. Tell me why. Tell me why. If you are making a conscious effort to see what's going on around you in the world at this time, if you're trying to be a better person, if you're trying to be a responsible public figure, tell me why you are going to decide to, in interviews, pick on one of the easiest targets in pop culture. When Katy Perry cut her hair short, she made multiple comments about doing a Britney and shaving her head. Now, Britney, everyone loves to make fun of Britney. And, you know, this wasn't even at the time where Britney did the shaving her head thing, because that was in like 2007. So this has been a good few years. Everyone's had time to kind of reflect. Yes, the comments were made like before Britney's Free Britney, like public kind of shift. But it's still been a good few years since that happened. And I think generally there'd been so much discussion in society around mental health and things like that, that even without like the Britney documentary coming out and everyone going, oh my God, we mistreated her so much, generally people with common sense, I think, at this time had kind of put two and two together and said, okay, what Britney went through then was actually quite tragic. She was clearly going through some kind of mental distress, and maybe it's not the best thing to make fun of Britney for shaving her head. We'd all kind of come to that conclusion on our own. Katy Perry, however, was on red carpets, making comments, making fun of Britney. And this, literally, I remember it so well. She was making those comments right at the start of this witness era, which was supposed to be all about her, like, growing and changing and learning and becoming a better person, and just she's awake and she's woke and she's, you know, she's suddenly she's good and she's atoning for all of her mistakes and all of this stuff. So to start that era off by making fun of Britney Spears, I don't like that. I didn't like that at the time, and I still don't like it. I think the problem with Katy Perry is that her early image was so manufactured that when the cash cow died at the end of Teenage Dream, what Katy was left with was years of media training and obedience to her management and her label, and no personal investment in her image. Everything people found relatable about Katy Perry was something that was relatable back in 2008 or 2009. The public never really saw Katy grow or change as a person. Like, yeah, I know she obviously had her divorce from that man whose name I won't say, and she's entered motherhood and all of that. So she has had like personal experiences in her life as a normal person does, but it doesn't really kind of translate to us, the public, like how that has impacted her and changed her as a person. Publicly, she's had no growth. She's still the same person in the Candyland costume, and that's why we got a song like Women's World. She never had to try very hard with her messaging in the past, right? Like, think about it this way. Raw is a generic song about never giving up on yourself. Firework is a generic song about loving yourself. Chained to the Rhythm is a generic song about whatever that was trying to say. Woman's World is a generic song about feminism. Like, it doesn't move the needle in any way, and that's because historically Katy Perry has never had to move the needle. She's just been Katy Perry. It used to work, it just doesn't now. I think the problem is, aside from straight men, her audience used to be kids and maybe a small number of gays. Look, don't ask me why a gay man would stan Katy Perry. I don't think she really likes you, but whatever, that's your choice. In present day, straight men, instead of Katy Perry, they like the younger pop girls like Sabrina Carpenter. The kids that used to like Katy Perry have grown up, and most of the gays who used to really like Katy have either realised that Gaga was superior all along, which, you know, we knew, or they've moved on to the new pop girls like Chappell Roan or Charlie XCX. Like, there are more exciting people to give your energy now to than Katy Perry. So she's been left behind, is what I'm saying. When you go for such generalised mass appeal in the way that Katy Perry did, you achieve shallow, surface-level connections with your fans, and you don't nurture a fan base who really go hard for you through thick and thin. You guys know it's unlike me to say a good word about Taylor Swift. However, I have to say, she is somebody who also has that generic mass appeal in a similar way. The general public really like her, But she's absolutely succeeded at making her fans interested in herself, who she is, what she's been through, and what she's going to do next. Do you know anybody really tuned in for Katy Perry in 2025 who isn't like a chronically online, faceless account with no other hobbies or interests? I don't mean casual fans, because of course she still has casual fans. Teenage Dream was record breaking in like its sales achievements. I think it broke a Michael Jackson record. So obviously we all have like a Katy song or two that we'll bop along to if we hear it out and things like that. But I'm talking about actively engaged Katy Perry stans in the year of 2025. There's not that many. There's really not, considering where she was. Anyway, again, Lady Gaga said it best when she said she's not a French fry, but she's foie gras. Foie gras? Foie gras? Foie gras. All my French friends watching this are absolutely going to drag me for that pronunciation. But anyway, I just had to make that point. So I think the mass hateration on Katy Perry that we're seeing today is probably a second wave of it, because she already suffered like a mass public ridicule during that initial Witness purposeful pop era. And sadly, no, it wasn't because people agreed with me and wanted to defend Britney Spears from Katy's tone-deaf comments, but it was hair-related. The first hate train was just because Katy cut her hair, quite honestly, and she went for a more androgynous look. This is honestly wild to me. I would love to tell you that people stopped liking her because they wanted her to be accountable for her like problematic behaviours, but it wasn't. It was because the minute she dropped her like sexy, naughty little brunette image and she started having that like punky, bleached pixie cut, it's a harsher look, and straight men and the straight women who want to cater to straight men are just instantly turned off. They've tuned out. They've left the chat. There's an amazing video about this era in general and why it turned people off so much by Todd in the Shadows, which I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably actually already seen that video because it was pretty big. At the time of me recording this, it has 1.7 million views, which is a lot. It's nearly double the amount of views that Katy actually got on her album announcement video for Witness. So more people want to tune into why it flopped compared to actually tuning into the album. The video is called Train Records, Katy Perry's Witness. If you haven't seen it, I really do recommend it. Now, dare I say, the amount of views on that Todd in the Shadows video and all the other Katy hate videos that pop up when I search YouTube for Katy Perry Witness era. There's one called How to Murder Your Career, The Katy Perry Formula by Swiftologist. There's another one called What Went Wrong with Katy Perry's Witness by Pop Dissected. Is it controversial for me to say that the mass indulgence of pointing and laughing at Katy Perry's missteps is rooted in something a little bit darker? Because not to be all like, if it were a man, but truly, if it were a man working with music producers who have been accused of assault, changing their image to be less concerned with sex appeal and more focused on experimentation, if it were a man who did something very dumb, like go to space for 11 minutes, we just know the level of backlash would not be as high as it is right now for Katy Perry. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen or heard the words, I knew I didn't like her for some reason, as soon as a female celebrity does something problematic. I literally saw it again today about Tate McRae making a song with Morgan Wallen. Like, people are waiting for an excuse to not like women. It's almost like we're rooting for them to fail as soon as we see them getting successful. This is literally the whole reason why Megan Thee Stallion has haters. You guys know I love her so much. She's done nothing wrong in her career but dare to advocate for herself after she was literally shot. She's straight up a victim of gun violence. It's been proven in court. And you had grown men who'd never even heard of Tory Lanez before suddenly streaming his music and showing up for him and showing out because he was violent towards a successful woman. And the extra layer of context here about her being a black woman, a successful black woman, that's not lost on me either. Successful, joyful black women are a threat to straight men because they don't want what's best for women. They want to control women. So that's a threat and they need to get rid of it. They need to extinguish the threat as soon as it appears. And that's why Megan Thee Stallion had such a wave of hate against her in that time. Anyway, that is a whole other tangent. Back to Katy Perry. She's easy to hate on because honestly, she's kind of dumb. What do you mean you had all the success in the world and followed up with Raw, another like generic watery pop song, instead of like singing something that could be sung just by Katy Perry, not just by any old pop star? Like, carve out a niche for yourself and curate your image and create a brand. Like, that's what she should have been doing, and she didn't. You know, what do you mean in the big year of 2025 you are still working with that producer with those allegations? You don't even have the luxury of being contracted to work with this man in the same way that other artists like Doja Cat are. You just willingly went to Dr. Luke and said, look, make me a hit. And what you guys did, the two of you put your last remaining brain cells in a pot or a bowl or something, and you rubbed them together for like 30 seconds, and you were like, yeah, we're cooking something up here. And what you created was that abortion of a song called Women's World, and expected everybody to like it. That's delusional. That's delusional. Who wouldn't then, in this scenario, join in on the pointing and laughing when her Lifetimes tour, whatever that means, because I thought the album was called 123 or something like that, so why it's the Lifetimes tour, I don't know. Her tour tickets aren't selling. The numbers aren't good. The tickets aren't selling. So yeah, who wouldn't laugh? Honestly, it's kind of funny when something bad happens to someone you don't like. And it's kind of funny when bad stuff happens to bad people. In the world right now, we aren't seeing justice prevail, right? We're not seeing bad things happen to bad people. We're seeing a whole lot of good things happening to bad people, actually. We're seeing success fall into the arms of people who don't deserve it. We're seeing literal fascism go unchecked. We're seeing Kanye West, however you want to think about his situation, if you think it's like, you know, because of his mental state, or you think he needs to be held accountable regardless, whatever you think, he is out there taunting the world with anti-Semitic songs and tweets, and he's still getting thousands of likes on his posts when he's announcing his album, and he's drawing swastikas all over pictures of his track list, and people are supporting that, and people are sharing that because they're excited for a Kanye West album in 2025. Like, we're actually seeing so much hatred in the world right now that we've become desensitized to just how bad things actually are. Do I even need to say about that salute by that person? You guys know what I'm referring to. Like, it's widespread right now. So in this climate, when something light and silly is happening, like Katy Perry going to space for just 11 minutes and coming back again, people are going to laugh. People are going to laugh and laugh. The memes, the jokes, the commentary. This whole news story is so ridiculous. I'm almost wondering if Katy Perry has offered herself up to the general public to just provide some much needed comic relief right now. Like, how camp would that be if Katy Perry was in on the joke the entire time? Like, imagine if that's why she's sat in the interview talking about how she's interested in STEM and the cosmos. Like, that would be the campest move ever. And if that was the case, and she's done all of this to sacrifice her image, like Jesus sacrificing himself for our sins, that would be the most, like, iconic thing ever. And it would probably be, like, the first artistic move in her career that I've, like, really, really respected her for. Because I think that would be excellent. I would, if that was the case, I'd say props to Katy for that. But I was being dramatic then. I do give her props for also making Thinking of You and The One That Got Away, but those were so long ago it almost doesn't count. So we'll move on from that. But volunteering yourself like a Hunger Games tribute to be the person we all point and laugh at, that is something I would just have no choice but to respect, because she's literally the perfect person to take all of that heat. Notice how Gayle King was on that flight. I hope flight is the right terminology, by the way, because I've seen trip, I've seen excursion, I've seen mission. I don't really know how I'm supposed to refer to this, but, you know, Gayle King, she's only been the victim of memes, while Katy Perry has literally, like, people writing think pieces about her, people like me making podcast episodes about her. People are genuinely analysing this story and giving it a lot of their energy. The general public is invested in like this shocking waste of resources used for this publicity stunt, and like they're very upset that Katy's being referred to an astronaut. Like, they're saying you're not an astronaut, you're a space tourist, and all of this stuff. Like, it's getting a really emotive reaction out of people. I desperately hope Katy Perry has been in on the joke from the beginning and she knows exactly how bad this makes her look, and that she did it so we could all laugh for a few days. But sadly, I don't think she's that smart, and I think this is just the latest mistake in her garbage fire list of PR moves from the last year or so. Like, the hatred is bad when Kesha's selfie with a Wendy's cup hits over 133,000 likes in 3 days. That's viral. Like, that's really viral. Side note, I would also be living for this if Kesha was in on the joke too, and her and Katy had like planned in advance to bring back the days of like pop stars being shady and like actually having personalities, instead of just being like so nice and media trained all the time. I'd really live for that. But no, I think Kesha was actually acting alone and just genuinely thought it'd be funny and shady to take a little Wendy's selfie. If you missed all of that, by the way, and you don't know what I'm referring to, Wendy's, as in, Wendy's, the fast food people, their Twitter account replied to a Pop Crave tweet that said Katy Perry has just returned from space, and they responded with 5 simple words: can we send her back? No question mark, no punctuation, just clear and to the point. And that one tweet, that one got 52,000 likes, and Kesha's got 133,000. So like Kesha's one has like really, really blown up with that context of Katy working with Dr. Luke. As I say, this space stunt was just the perfect thing for the public to ridicule. Whether you're deeply invested in the moral issues or more just here for the memes, this story really has something for everyone. It has involvement from Jeff Bezos, who everyone hates, obviously, because he's a billionaire. It's his money that funded the whole thing, so we're allowed to hate on that part of it guilt-free. It has the fact that the entire trip was 11 minutes, which is just the campest thing ever. Before they went, I saw a few tweets that made me laugh, which were just like, all jokes aside, I really hope Katy Perry doesn't die on this trip to space. So for her to be back in 11 minutes is just like straight up comedy, because, people were concerned. And before you even had time to like digest that concern and say a prayer for her, she was home again. It's like she never left. The big one, though, with all of this space stuff that we need to talk about, and this is probably like, for me, the most obvious important issue we can talk about, aside from the obvious, which is, the lack of resources and stuff like that. It's a cost of living crisis. We're sending women to space. For what reason? Yeah, that's tone deaf. But like, for me, it's the way this was marketed as a big moment in feminist history. This trip was being billed as the first female-only mission in over 6 decades. For me, it's the way Oprah was watching with tears in her eyes, and we were all being gaslit into believing this was like an important milestone for women. Like, again, I have to say, if this were actually groundbreaking, there would be a trans woman in the group, or it would be the women who went would actually be the women who worked on engineering the rocket or whatever it is, like, I know some of the other women in the group, aside from Katy Perry, some of those women are accomplished women with other kind of like accolades and achievements and things like that. But from my understanding, none of them had actually worked on making this specific space mission happen. If it was a big feminist moment, shouldn't we have seen, like, in the build-up, an all-female crew on the ground working to prepare for the launch, and then, like, female astronauts actually doing something in the air instead of just shaking their hair in the zero-gravity camera lens, or just something actually inspiring? Because for me, the key takeaway from this group of women wasn't that they had achieved something big by going to space. It was that Blue Origin, the company, had selected a group of conventionally attractive women, 1, put them in skin-tight bodysuits, 2, done their hair and makeup for camera, 3, and then just turn the live stream on. It didn't tell me that women can do anything. It told me that being hot gets you anywhere. Honestly, like, that was the takeaway message. Being sexy is what opens doors for you, and it's not, you know, anything that you can do with your mind. It's how you present. That is the true achievement. Like, I'm sorry, what is the purpose of releasing that footage of all of them in the space shuttle thing and the zero gravity, doing spins, tossing their hair around? Again, it just felt so catered to the male gaze, despite being marketed as something that they were doing for women and for feminism. It reminded me of that song Dear Future Husband by Meghan Trainor, where she's just listing all of those stereotypical things she'd do as a good little housewife for her man. Like, no agency, no grit, just like pure licking the arsehole of patriarchy. And the cherry on top, this is hilarious. In this moment, poor Katy Perry, she thought this was her moment, this was her time to reveal the set list of her tour. The tour, I don't think people even knew she was going on tour, let alone were they concerned about hearing their favourite songs on it from 14 years ago. Like, the way she's supposedly in space in that moment, because that's the other thing I haven't talked about either, is that a lot of people thought the videos actually made the whole thing look fake, and there's conspiracy that they didn't even go to space, which I'm not ruling out because I don't know enough about space to make a comment on that. But, you know, if she is in space, the fact that in those short 11 minutes she has there, you know, that's something you and I probably will never experience. The vast majority of us are never going to experience going to space or being a space tourist or whatever. So instead of, I don't know, looking out the fucking window or something, she's trying to serve face to the camera and do her little tour set list reveal. That's comedy. That's entertainment. That is entertainment. And this is why I'm not entirely convinced the whole thing wasn't supposed to be camp. Like, that is something out of a sitcom. In that moment, Katy Perry is the Michael Scott of pop music. Like, it's just so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous. So yes, I think we're allowed to laugh at this. I do. And I don't think it makes us bad people. And for her to come back down to earth 11 minutes later and kiss the ground on her hands and knees and then turn to the camera and say she feels super connected to love, that's comedy. That's comedy. What do you mean? You're connected to love? I thought, 5 minutes ago she was talking about this being about STEM and the cosmos. Okay. The only thing that would have made this funnier is if she'd shouted out her fans in that moment and made it about the Katy cats. Okay, everyone watching, I'm so sorry for yet another change in my lighting. I'm so unprofessional, I'm so sorry. And if you're listening, I'm so sorry for interrupting again with another lighting change. Let me carry on. I'm sorry that this is so jarring. I promise as I go along with this podcast, I'm going to get more professional. But anyway, yeah, the only thing that would have made it more funny would be Katy shouting out the Katy cats. And this would be if you guys remember when Justin Bieber said that Anne Frank would have been a belieber, that was kind of funny in a campy way. That's the only thing I can think of that would have made this whole scenario even funnier. I cannot believe Katy Perry willingly chose to have 11 minutes of going to space as part of her legacy. I wonder if in the moments leading up to it, there was ever a little voice in her brain that was like, maybe this isn't a good idea. Or maybe they're going to laugh at me for this. Because you guys remember before the Met Gala with Karlie Kloss, and she posted that picture of looking camp right in the eye. And then she was ridiculously made fun of, so much to the point where the entire thing actually did become camp. When she did that, she obviously had no idea that she was going to get relentlessly made fun of for doing that. So I have to wonder with Katy, this, just someone proposing it to her must have just thought it was stupid as they were saying it. Do you know what I mean? Hey Katy, we're going to send you and 5 other women in a little shuttle and you're going to go up to space and you're going to look out the window and then we're going to send you back down again and the whole thing is going to take 11 minutes and it's going to be a really important thing for women. And like, you think she listened to that and thought it was legit and thought it was serious and thought it was actually going to change lives and make impact somehow, and she didn't think she was going to get made fun of for it? Like, part of her or someone on her team must have known, must have had an inkling that this is dumb. Surely, because what do you mean 11 minutes? I thought she was going to be gone for like 4 months or something. When I saw she was going to space, I was like, isn't she going on tour soon? How's she going to be back in time? And then literally as soon as I sent that, I think I tweeted that, and as soon as I tweeted it, she was back. Like, she was there. But anyway, all of this to say, are we bad people for mocking Katy Perry? Well, no, I don't think we are. And to be honest, until she stops working with Dr. Luke, gives some kind of meaningful apology for mocking Britney, stops being homophobic, stops queerbaiting to sell her records, blah, 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 all of this, until I see some kind of actual genuine remorse and accountability, no, I do not think we're bad people for making fun of her. But I will say this, now more than ever, it's so important to think about the way we are interacting with each other, consuming news, putting people on pedestals, and who we choose to drag down and how. Because had this been a mixed gender flight for 11 minutes, I can guarantee that people would be taking this entire thing less seriously, and that no male passenger on this space tourism flight would be getting dragged as harshly as Katy Perry is right now. We feel justified in laughing at her because she's a problematic person, and we are kind of justified in laughing, honestly, but I'm not seeing the same heat for Jeff Bezos. Let's just say that. The viral tweets are all about Katy. The Wendy's Twitter account, they didn't say, for example, like, why don't we just launch Jeff into space? They said, can we send Katy back and keep her there? Like, that's, she's an easy target. I think for me, generally, when we decide to cancel celebrities, there needs to be an end goal, right? So there needs to be some kind of path towards redemption. And I think 9 times out of 10, it's just, apologise for your behaviour, make some sort of public gesture, or, say you're going to change, and then just give it some time to breathe, and then you can come back and you can, rejoin the public, and people will have kind of forgotten and forgiven you, and you'll be fine. Pretty much everything blows over, Of course, there are going to be people that will be cancelled for life. There are people that, like, for me, there's people there are no going back for, but I can honestly say, like, the majority of problematic celebrities, if I saw genuine, meaningful action from them, I would probably find it in my heart to forgive them, because who am I to say somebody is cancelled for the rest of their life? Like, I don't know you. I'm not Jesus. I'm not God. I can't say this person deserves to be, thrown into the pits of hell to burn in eternal suffering. Like, I don't have that. I'm not that good a person where I get to say that about somebody else. So I do think there's a way forward for all problematic, cancelled celebrities for the most part. Maybe not the ones that are currently like rotting in prison for heinous crimes, but someone like Katy, who hasn't done like a heinous crime, she's just been very, very problematic and inappropriate at times. There's a way forward for her. She just is too stupid to actually figure it out and do the right thing. The first of those being stop working with Dr. Luke. Quite honestly, like, why? Who on earth thought that was a good idea? I saw there was some article from someone at the record label or something kind of claiming it was their idea. Who cares? You're Katy Perry. If you don't want to work with Dr. Luke, you don't have to. Like, she could have put her foot down and she didn't. That's the bottom line. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. This was the first episode of Starstruck that wasn't all about Lady Gaga. It was about something else for once. Let me know what I should discuss next on this podcast in the comments. Leave your thoughts in there. I love reading what you guys have to say. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on too, because I've been doing more of those live episodes recently. I really, really enjoyed the first time I went live. I was so nervous and ended up having such a good time. And I'm going to do that again soon. And I'm probably going to do them a little bit more frequently because they're easier for me because I don't have to edit them. I just I just switch it on and I talk. So I definitely want to do more of those, and I don't want you to miss out. So turn your notifications on for that. If more of you are there and talking with me in the chat, then it's like we're actually having a little hangout session, and it's less like me just doing this, talking to camera and reading my notes. It's more fun. So yeah, Katy Perry, if somehow you're watching this, like, DM me. I can help you out of this mess. You're in deep shit right now, but I can help. I know how to get you out of this. You'll be fine. Just stop working with Dr. Luke, for the love of God. Like, nobody can PR that one away. You just have to cut ties with him. That's the only way. So yeah. Anyways, as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, best wishes and kisses. Bye bye bye.